Yeah.
The Jivatman, spark soul, and psychic being are three different forms of the same reality, and they must not be mixed up together, as that confuses the clearness of the inner experience. The Jivatman or spirit is self existent, above the manifested or instrumental being. It is superior to birth and death, always the same. It is the individual self or Atman, the eternal true being of the individual. The soul is a spark of the divine in the heart of the living creatures of nature. It is not seated above the manifested being. It enters into the manifestation of the self, consents to be a part of its natural phenomenal becoming, supports its evolution in the world of material nature. It carries with it, at first, an undifferentiated power of the divine consciousness, containing all possibilities, but at first, unevolved possibilities which have not yet taken form, but to which it is the function of evolution to give form. This spark of divinity is there in all terrestrial living beings from the earth's highest to its lowest creatures. The psychic being is a spiritual personality put forward by the soul in its evolution. Its growth marks the stage which the spiritual evolution of the individual has reached and its immediate possibilities for the future. It stands behind the mental, the vital, the physical nature, grows by the experiences, carries the consciousness from life to life. It is the psychic person, Chaitya Purusha. At first, it is veiled by the mental, vital, and physical parts, limited by them in its self expression by their limitations, bound to the reactions of nature. But as it grows, it becomes capable of coming forward and dominating the mind, life, and body. In the ordinary man, it still depends on them for expression and is not able to take them up and freely use them. The life of the being is animal and human, not divine. When the psychic being can, by sadhana, become dominant and freely use its instruments, then the impulse towards the divine becomes complete, and the transformation of mind, vital, and body, not merely their liberation, becomes possible. As the self or Atman is free and superior to birth and death, the experience of the Jivatman and its unity with the Supreme or Universal Self is sufficient to bring the sense of liberation. But for the transformation of the life and nature, the full awareness and awakening of a psychic being also is indispensable. The psychic being realizes at this stage its oneness with the true being, the self. But it does not disappear or change into it. It remains as its instrument for psychic and spiritual self expression, a divine manifestation in nature. The Bindu seen by you above may be a symbolic way of seeing the Jivatman, the individual self, as a drop of the sea, an individual portion of the universal divine. The aspiration on that level would naturally be for the opening of the higher consciousness so that the being may dwell there and not in the ignorance. The Jivatman is already one with the divine in reality, but its spiritual demand may be for the rest of the consciousness also to realize it. The aspiration of the psychic being would then translate this demand entirely for the opening of the whole lower nature, mind, vital, body to the divine, for the love and union with the divine, for its presence and power within the heart, for the transformation of the mind, life, and body by the descent of the higher consciousness into this instrumental being and nature. Both aspirations are necessary for the fullness of this yoga. The demand of the self on the nature from above, the psychic aspiration of the nature from below. When the psychic imposes its aspiration on the mind, vital, and body, then they too aspire, and this is what was felt by you as the aspiration from the level of the lower being. The aspiration felt above is that of the Jivatman for the higher consciousness with its realization of the one to manifest in all the being. Both aspirations help and are necessary to each other, but the seeking of the lower being is at first intermittent and oppressed by the obscurity and limitations of the ordinary consciousness. It has, by sadhana, to become clear, constant, strong, and enduring. It then compels realization, makes it inevitable. The sense of peace, purity, and calm felt by you is brought about by a union or strong contact of the lower with the higher consciousness. It cannot be permanent at first, but it can become so by an increased frequency and durability of the calm and peace, and finally, by the full descent of the eternal peace and calm and silence of the higher consciousness into the lower nature. The Jivatman in a supramental creation. I have used the words Jiva and Jivatman in these and all the passages in exactly the same sense. It never occurred to me that there could be a difference. If I had so intended it, I would have drawn the distinction, the two words being similar, very clearly and not left it to be gathered by inference. In the passage from the chapter in the Life Divine on the triple status of the supermind, I was describing how the supermind, working as a force of the highest self-determination of the divine, manifested it in three poises. And what was the consciousness of the Jivatman in a supramental creation? There is no statement that the place of the Jivatman is in the supramental plane alone. If that were so, man could have no knowledge of his individual self or spirit before he rose to the supramental plane. He could not have any experience of the self, though he may have the sense of the dissolution of his ego in something universal. But he can become aware of his unborn, non-evolving self, a center of the divine consciousness long before that. The self cosmic or individual is experienced long before rising to supermind. If it were not so, spiritual experience of that high kind would be impossible to mental man. Liberation would be impossible. He would first have to become a supramental being. As for the Purusha, it is there on all planes. There is a mental Purusha, Manomaya, leader of the life and body. As the Upanishad puts it, a vital, a physical Purusha. There is the psychic being or Chaitya Purusha, which supports and carries all these as it were. One may say that there are projections of the Jivatman put there to uphold Prakriti on the various levels of the being. The Upanishad speaks also of a supramental and a bliss Purusha. And if the supramental and the bliss nature were organized in the evolution on earth, we could become aware of them upholding the movements here. As for the psychic being, it enters into the evolution, enters into the body at birth, and goes out of it at death. But the Jivatman, as I know it, is unborn and eternal, although upholding the manifested personality from above. The psychic being can be described as the Jivatman entering into birth, if you like. But if the distinction is not made, then the nature of the Atman is blurred and a confusion arises. This is a necessary distinction for metaphysical knowledge and for something that is very important in spiritual experience. The word Atman, like spirit in English, is popularly used in all kinds of senses, but both for spiritual and philosophical knowledge, it is necessary to be clear and precise in one's use of terms so as to avoid confusion of thought and vision by confusion in the words we use to express them. If I had meant that it is an individual consciousness that determines all this working, as you tell me, then I should be in contradiction with my own teaching of the divine as the master of all and the need of surrender. For an individual who can do everything himself, can carry out his own salvation, he has no need of surrender.
Right. Thank you. So, I think Himanshu was not there in the previous session. Okay. So recording is there for the previous session. If there is any doubts related, or if there is any small doubt related to the first letter, then we can take it up now before going to this one. We had gone just through that letter in almost 1 hour and 10 minutes. So it was dealt, I mean, as threadbare as possible humanly. Hmm?
मैं रिकॉर्डिंग देखूंगा बाद में
Okay,
मैंने
okay,
yeah,
okay.
thank you,
Then
thank you.
we'll go through this.
Yeah.
Jivatman in a supramental creation. I have used the words Jiva and Jivatman in these and all the passages. ये इसमें नीचे दिया है. It's from the Life Divine, page 157, and this is on the Gita, page 445 and 542. I have not read these passages. 445 का मुझे पता है कौन सा वाला है. That is the one in which he explains the shloka 15.7 of the Gita. Mamaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutah Sanatanah. And there he says that something like this, that if words have any meaning, then what this means is that the individual is eternal. The word jiva being taken to mean individual. Okay. Basically, the word jiva being translated as the word individual in the English language. Right. So I have used the words Jiva and Jivatman. Now, we are reading the essays on the Gita and trying to go simultaneously with the shlokas. Jivatman word in this form, Jivatman के form में गीता में नहीं आता है. As far as my memory serves me, I don't think it's there. Jiva is there. One instance of that is 15.7. That is the most oft quoted reference from the Gita in these classes. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutah Sanatana. It is an eternal portion of me. It is verily an eternal portion of me that becomes a Jiva in the world of Jivas. Okay. And what is it? It is Sanatana. It is an eternal portion of me. Amai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutah Sanatana. Sanatana Anshaha. Okay. So he's referring to that. I have used the words Jiva and Jivatman in these and all the passages in exactly the same sense. So first and foremost, if he is using these in his writings, वैसे he is referring to something particular, वो exactly say Jivatman is sometimes for short called Jiva. Okay. वो जीवा को किसी और सेंस में लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. That's what he's saying here, right? It never occurred to me that there could be a difference because generally उसको जीवा ही बोलते हैं. जैसे सोहमअस्मि बोलते हैं in the Upanishadic language. Similarly, in normal parlance and spirituality, they say जो जीव है वही शिव है because the words जीवा and शिवा are rhyming. Okay? अब जो जीवात्मन है वही शिव है तो फिर वो राइम नहीं करेगा ना उससे. फिर जीवात्मन है वही परमात्मन ऐसा बोलना पड़ेगा. जो जीव है वही शिव है. But जीवा word is used to mean the Jivatman, which means the individual poise of the eternal. वो poise word हमने last time काफी उसमें किया था cover detail में on Dhaval is asking. So I have used the words Jiva and Jivatman in these and all the passages in exactly the same sense. It never occurred to me that there could be difference. If I had so intended it, I would have drawn the distinction, the two words being similar, very clearly and not left it to be gathered by inference. This also tells us something about Sri Aurobindo's way of saying. He does not leave chance to ambiguity. Okay, this is one of the greatest features of his writings. कि hardly मतलब मिलेगा ही नहीं actually, hardly मैं बोल रहा हूँ just like that. There is crystal clarity and कहीं पे कोई ambiguity नहीं रहती है. ठीक है, he is not like, and that is why, that is one of the main reasons why he has created sort of his own system of yoga and given new terms. Right, psychic being term is not found in any other literature except Sri Aurobindo. Okay. So, in the passage from the chapter in the Life Divine on the triple status of the supermind, I was describing how the supermind, working as a force of the highest self-determination of the divine, manifested it, yani ki manifested the divine in three poises. And what was the consciousness of the Jivatman in a supramental creation? Okay, so maybe, which we were referring to last time, it is the same passage. The chapter is called the triple status of the supermind, and as we had said, the first status is that the self is everything. Self, first status when coming from top to bottom. Okay, so the self is everything, which is what really which leads to the Advaita philosophy of Shankara. Okay, there is nothing else. Okay, second is everything is in the self. That is what leads to the Vishishtadvaita philosophy of Ramanujacharya. How that leads to that is not perfectly clear to me also, so it will not be so easy to say. But if this thing is there, then that passage from the Life Divine can be read and we can try to find out. Okay, but this much, what I am saying is perfectly clear, that this is how these philosophies ka jo origin hai, it is in this. Okay, the self as all is what leads to the Advaita of Shankara. Everything in the self, Sarva Bhutani Chatmani, ईशा का वर्स नंबर 6. ऑल दीज भूतानी, सर्वभूतानी नपुंसक लिंग है, प्लूरल में, आत्मनि, इन द सेल्फ. ओके, that leads to the Vishishtadvaita of Ramanuja, and the self is in everybody. That leads to the Dvaita philosophy of Madhvacharya. Okay, Sarvabhuteshu Chatmanam. Sarvabhuteshu मतलब सारे beings के अंदर the self is there. गीता में भी ऐसे वर्सेस हैं 6th चैप्टर में, बट या उसमें ज्यादा भी जाने. सो देयर इज नो स्टेटमेंट. वन सेकेंड. This is how the supermind manifests the divine in the three poises. So ये जो distinction है, अच्छा, supermind from here it seems that this is the one which creates that poise of the jiva. See, supermind is the consciousness in which all the possibilities of the divine are there in what is called the form of idea, real idea Sri Aurobindo कहते हैं उसको. So we are all, जो हम individual souls हैं, in that sense we are all nothing but ideas in the divine कि ये भी मेरे अंदर एक possibility है, right? And it is a supermind which manifests the divine in these three poises: the self as everything, everything in the self, and the self in everything. Okay. Now, there is no statement that the place of the Jivatman is in the supramental plane alone. If that were so, man could have no knowledge of his individual self or spirit before he rose to the supramental plane. Now, इसमें थोड़ा सा, if I pull out that letter, it will take more time. But throughout the history of spirituality, not very many have risen to the supramental plane. Okay, some of the Vedic rishis did. That's why it is mentioned in the Taittiriya Upanishad. It's mentioned as the Vijnana Kosha and all that. Okay, but there is a letter of Sri Aurobindo in which he says that because the sadhaks, the rishis, the seekers, yogis, whatever, because they could not go beyond the overmind, that is why the Indian philosophy culminated in Mayavad. This is the exact phrase there, जो 3 words हैं, culminated in Mayavad, because they did not go beyond overmind for a very long time. Supermind was there. Okay? Even the teaching of the Gita, which speaks of the one divine, it is supramental in that sense, because supramental means oneness. Okay? But that is what he says, what I am saying, I am remembering from the letter, that because they, so what, but does it mean that they did not realize their Jivatman? But of course they did. ये सोचना कि केवल जिन्होंने सुप्रामेंटल प्राप्त किया है वही जीवात्मन प्राप्त किए हैं, that is the doubt of the disciple which he is clearing. ठीक है? Many of us would not even have that doubt, so it's not necessary. But so he could not have any experience of the self, though me have. I'm sorry. There is no statement that the place of the Jivatman is in the supramental plane alone. If that were so, man could have no knowledge of his individual self or spirit before he rose to the supramental plane. He could not have any experience of the self, though he may have the sense of the dissolution of his ego in something universal, 1 second. He could not have any experience of the self, though he may have the sense of the dissolution of his ego in something universal. Okay. But he can become aware of his unborn, non-evolving self. This is the difference which we had set out to clear in our minds, that जो गीता बोल रही है कि ये अविकार्योयम उच्यते, this which does not change, right? And we are those who are exposed to Sri Aurobindo hearing about the evolving self. So this is why we had set out to understand the difference between the jiva. They are the same. As it is said, again ये भूलना नहीं चाहिए बिल्कुल भी, because in the last session also we read it 3-4 times. 3 different forms of the same reality, very clearly. So they are the same reality in 3 different forms. First thing that we should know is the sameness. Then once that, this is what is called jnana, okay, essential knowledge. Then the detailed and comprehensive knowledge is what is called vijnana in the Gita. कि ये इसके 3 different forms हैं. All right.
Can we say that only the psychic being evolves while the rest two do not evolve? The difference is that, right?
The Jivatman does not evolve. ठीक है?
And the
जो
spark soul
soul
does
है, the spark soul, you can say that उसमें और psychic being में actually there is no real difference, mother says. But you can say that it does not evolve because it is the nucleus of possibilities. It evolves through the psychic being. So it is the psychic being which really mutates and evolves.
Yes, it is the only difference between the three is that the psychic being evolves and the other two don't evolve.
Other two don't evolve. और ये जो other two में भी जो हमारे अंदर है, the spark soul, ठीक है, it is the true representative of the Jivatman. In the letter further on, he is going to say that there are other, गलती से पता नहीं कैसे हो गया. In the letter further on, he is going to say that there are other representatives of the Jivatman. They are called Manomaya, Pranamaya, etc. according to the level of consciousness dominant in the human being. All right. So, continuing. But he can become aware of his unborn, non-evolving self. Okay? This was the word in 2.20 of the Gita. Ajo, ajah, not born. For the sake of आवृत्ति बोलते हैं इसको repetition. नजायते म्रियते वा कदाचित नायम भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. Okay, it is not born, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित. Then how will it die? Certainly it cannot die. जब जन्मा ही नहीं तो मरेगा कहाँ से? न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित नायम भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः. It is not that it was there in the past, bhutva, and it will not be in the future, bhavita, again, bhuyah. मतलब past में भी था और future में भी रहेगा. ठीक है? अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो. This is the unborn, this is the eternal, this is the sempiternal. Nitya and Shashvata, 2 words are there. Again, मतलब exact why they are there, क्योंकि नित्य का मतलब ही essentially वही है, शाश्वत का मतलब भी exactly वही है. And the Gita is very economical, it does not use even one extra word, right? So that probably will be revealed with more this thing, कि वो 2 words क्यों use करें semi verse में. कभी कभी sometimes it is done for the completion of the meter also, और वो emphasis देने के लिए. दोनों reasons होते हैं. You want to
Anmol,
emphasize something, so you repeat it, and also there are instances when you can clearly detect that this is done for the completion of the meter. Yes, sir, tell me.
this line, but he can become aware of his unborn, non-evolving self. Here, is he referring to the spark soul? Because that also gives you this experience, or is he specifically talking about the Jivatman?
He's talking about the Jivatman here, because he's explaining about the Jivatman here.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. And again, you know, ये हम शुरू ही जस्ट किए थे वो चैप्टर गीता का. This is not a, क्योंकि we keep hearing it, you know, the whole Indian culture में बहुत well known है कि ऐसा कभी नहीं था जब हम नहीं थे, ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा जब हम नहीं होंगे. But this has to be fixed in our mind first, at least as a mental realization. इससे क्या होता है, योग का जो प्री-रेक्विजिट है, fearlessness, that comes only by the, भक्ति is one way of getting fearlessness, but ultimately उससे भी क्या होता है, you start getting a glimpse of this eternal consciousness. और जब तक ये अभय नहीं आएगा, ठीक है, तब तक one cannot really practice yoga, right? So there was never a time when I was not there. There will never be a time when I will not be there. इसको हमने mentally भी understand किया था in that session कि there can be only two possibilities. Okay, either I am there forever or I am not there forever. इसके अलावा तीसरी कोई possibility हो नहीं सकती है, isn't it? Now, if you think about it, if you are there forever, then also there is nothing to fret and worry about. Okay, and if you are forever, then also there is nothing to fret and worry about. So that is why this very, very basic and simple sounding truth of the Vedanta, simple because we are so familiar with it, but it has to be deeply meditated upon until it gets at least, matlab, in the beginning, fixed in our mind. It will lead to the realization of that. Okay? So don't need to say more on this, but ये बहुत important point है. तो हो सकता है एक दो बार भी in the coming 1-2 sessions I might repeat. बहुत ज़्यादा important point है, right? Okay. But he can become aware of his unborn, non-evolving self, a center of the divine consciousness. This is what we are, a center of the divine consciousness. Long before that mane, long before the attainment of the supramental. The self, cosmic or individual, is experienced long before rising to supermind. Okay. It can be either expressed in the cosmic form, wherein you do not particularly feel yourself as an individual center, or you can feel your individual self. But it is, as he's saying, experienced long before rising to supermind. It has to be kept in mind that these letters are written in response to disciples who are having doubts or experiences and some such things, and those doubts or their experiences clarification is being given. So ये एकदम experiential level पे है. It is not a general textbook written originally for public to read. Okay, so this has to be kept in mind while reading these letters. They have tried their best to arrange the letters on yoga in a book form, and they have done a very fantastic job. But without the actual experience of the disciple who is asking the question, writing the letter, sometimes it is not easy to understand what Sri Aurobindo is explaining, what he's saying. All right. Now, if it were not so, spiritual experience of that high kind would be impossible to mental man. Liberation would be impossible. He would first have to become a supramental being, putting the cart before the horse, as they say. Okay? If it were not so, spiritual experience of that high kind, which high kind? The realization of the self, cosmic or individual, okay, would be impossible to mental man. Liberation would be impossible. He would first have to become a supramental being. As for the Purusha, it is there on all planes. Again, a very important sentence. Why? Because हमको अपने भीतर पुरुष का अनुभव हो सकता है by the practice of the very simple. If you just observe your thoughts, one of the meditations which Sri Aurobindo also teaches in his letters, he takes it from Vivekananda, quotes it from there, कि if you're not able to do anything, just observe your thoughts and observe them until they kind of run out in their intensity. This simple thing, this simple process will make you have the glimpse of that Purusha within you in whatever form. हमारा जो भी present level of consciousness. The thing to be remembered here is when I'm saying this, that same Purusha is the Paraha Purusha, वो उसका ये वाला form है. But the Purusha is the same. It is, हमने जो अनुभव किया है, it is that particular poise of the Purusha. But the Purusha is the same. And when you get a glimpse of the Purusha, essentially you get a glimpse of the divine. And post that, sadhana really becomes possible. Because कुछ अनुभव ही नहीं है तो फिर साधना आदमी करेगा कैसे? You need to have some kind of glimpse of eternity, infinity, omnipotence, omniscience even. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda जो चार aspects होते हैं divine के, Sat would be translated as eternal existence, right? So eternity, I am there forever. Something of that you need to glimpse. Chit, consciousness, omniscience. Something of that omniscience one needs to feel, right? Shakti, omnipotence in the form of power. Or Ananda, or infinity, whichever aspect, right? So, yeah. As for the Purusha, it is there on all planes. There is a mental Purusha, Manomaya, leader of the life and body, as the Upanishad puts it. The Upanishad that he is quoting is called the Mundaka Upanishad. It is one of the major Upanishads among the 12. And the Sanskrit is Manomaya Purushaha Prana Sharira Neta. This is the Sanskrit. ठीक है, I have not pulled out the reference and all, वो मैं बाद में डाल दूंगा ग्रुप में. This is the Sanskrit. Manomaya Purusha Prana Sharira Neta. That's all what we are supposed to become in the first place. Let our mental being have the domination and control over the vital and the body. Most, I shouldn't be, but many times we are not able to have even this much. Our vital overtakes the mind. Our body overtakes the mind. So this is the first level of mastery that we need to have. जो वो यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं. Manurbhava is what the Veda says. First become a Manushya. Okay, Manomaya Purusha. So, coming back. As for the Purusha, it is there on all planes. There is a mental Purusha, Manomaya, leader of the life and body, as the Upanishad puts it, a vital, a physical Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Annamaya Purusha. ये पुरुष के ही अलग अलग रूप हैं. Now that we are in the human form, the dominant would be, by default would be, or should be, the Manomaya Purusha. Okay. There is the psychic being or Chaitya Purusha, which supports and carries all these as it were. Okay. Now, a little bit of Sri Aurobindo's yoga psychology. So, he describes, or rather defines, the Chaitya Purusha or psychic being as our inmost being. Okay. This is his terminology. He says there is in our horizontal dimension, it's like concentric circles, he says. Okay. So the outer being, the inner being, and the inmost being. The inmost being is what is called the Chaitya Purusha, the psychic being. और वो क्या कर रहा है? What is he saying here? It is supporting and carrying all these as it were. It is the psychic being, the Chaitya Purusha, which is the secret support of all these three Purushas, the Manomaya, the Pranamaya, and the Annamaya. Okay? This is, we're basically learning our psychology. Just 1 second, I'll switch on.
I have
Yes. Yes, please. Yes, please.
If the Chaitya Purusha is the support of the Manomaya Purusha and the Pranamaya Purusha and the Manomaya, Pranamaya and Annamaya Purusha, how can it be? Because it is still evolving. It can be at a very nascent stage.
And you can say that उसके पीछे वो जो entity है ना, जो soul वाली entity है.
So it is a spark soul that is
That's why
the.
he's saying as it were, but it is there because जो जीवात्मन है ना, जीवात्मन is above the manifestation. Its representative here is the Chaitya Purusha. So whatever support even the Jivatman has to give to the Manomaya, Annamaya and Pranamaya, it has to come through its chief intermediary, which is the Chaitya Purusha.
So its chief
Chief intermediary, which is the soul.
Soul. The spark soul is the chief intermediary.
Correct. I stand corrected.
And when they say that
Chaitya Purusha
supports and carries all these, there is a psychic being or Chaitya Purusha which supports and carries all these.
As it were.
It is, what he means is that the spark soul supports and carries them through the Chaitya Purusha.
Yes.
Because it's a Chaitya Purusha by
Chaitya
itself.
Purusha does not have any existence without the soul.
And it cannot support also without the soul.
And also, while जब हम बोल रहे हैं, let us not make a very sharp distinction between the psychic being, the soul and the Jivatman. Always those 5 words, three forms of the same reality. ठीक है? Otherwise क्या होगा? We will start cutting up these. कि ये अलग है, वो अलग है, वो अलग है. अलग नहीं है. ये for the sake of understanding हम उसको अलग अलग dissect करके समझ रहे हैं. साइकिक बीइंग की जहां तक बात है, उसका जो सोल है, स्पार्क सोल है, उसके बिना तो उसका कोई अस्तित्व ही नहीं है.
That's why I said that the Chaitya Purusha cannot support. It is actually the spark soul which supports.
Exactly.
Anmol.
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
No, nothing. बोलिए.
Yeah,
अभी हमने ये sentence पढ़ा है. हाँ, बोलिए.
Yeah, I was saying that if you see the Upanishad you referred, the 4th and the 5th koshas, it talks about the Vigyanmay and then the Anandmay kosh, right? So where is this Vigyanmay and how does it relate to the Chaitya Purush? We'll
come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. One में अभी तक हमने यहाँ तक पढ़ा है. One, this is the last sentence period. As with the Purusha, it is there on all planes. There is a mental Purusha, Manomaya, leader of the life and body. As the Upanishad puts it, vital physical Purusha also. There is the psychic being or Chaitya Purusha, which supports and carries all this as it were. ठीक है, अभी वो बता रहे हैं कि पुरुषा किन किन लेवल्स पे है, and he has named 4 पुरुषas. Okay, the 4 levels being mind, vital, body and soul. Now, one may say that these are projections of the Jivatman put there to uphold Prakriti on the various levels of the being. Okay, one may say that these are projections of the Jivatman put there to uphold Prakriti on the various levels of the being. Now, when we read this sentence, we can tend to think that वो जीवात्मन जो है वो डायरेक्टली मनोमय, अन्नमय और प्राणमय को प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा है ऊपर से. This does not happen because जो जीवात्मन का ट्रू रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, दैट इज वाई जो इसके बाकी टेक्स्ट्स है ना related to the psychic being and related to the Jivatman from this portion of the letters on yoga only, they might need to be read. We might even need to read them for 2 or 3 sessions. ये मेरे मन में आया था लिखने का WhatsApp ग्रुप पे पहले, but I thought let me wait for the class to begin to say this. Okay, so again, one may say that these are projections of the Jivatman put there to uphold Prakriti on the various levels of the being. We can say it like this because essentially Jivatman और soul और psychic being में कोई difference नहीं है. But the process is not like this. सबसे पहले जीवात्मन, why I am saying this again, I am saying इस सेंटेंस को पढ़ के ऐसा लग सकता है कि डायरेक्टली जो है द जीवात्मन इज प्रोजेक्टिंग द मनोमय, द प्राणमय एंड द अन्नमय. दिस
हाँ ये लगता है,
projection
you are
does not
right.
happen. Yes, लगता है.
This
Clarify
sentence
करा.
is
This is not
confusing.
how it happens. This is not how it happens. First things first, the Jivatman projects itself as the soul, as the spark soul. Okay.
Then the spark soul projects itself as a
Yes, as the Chaitya Purusha.
and
And
then
it becomes the Chaitya Purusha, and that Chaitya Purusha in turn supports and carries all these 3 Purushas. आप ये भी कह सकते हैं कि ये जो 3 पुरुष हैं ये चैत्य पुरुष के अंदर से प्रोजेक्ट हुए हैं. I have read this kind of language, वो आएगा तो मैं दिखाऊंगा, अभी नहीं बोल रहा हूं उसको. अभी let's stick to the language that we are following right now. It carries and supports them as it were. ठीक है, but this
Yeah, so
is the process.
हाँ, Anmol भाई,
Yes.
see, this spark soul is sort of the nucleus, metaphorically I'm saying,
Yes.
around which the cellular things of psychic being, like in cell में एक nucleus रहता है, वैसे spark soul is the nucleus और उसके आजू बाजू जो
उसके
cell develop
आजू बाजू
होती है,
साइकिक बीइंग ग्रो करता है.
grow करता है. Exactly. So this image comes to my mind right now.
Correct.
And this nucleus is being supported by the Jivatman from the top.
This nucleus is the जीवात्मन here in the terrestrial form. इस न्यूक्लियस और जीवात्मन में कोई भेद नहीं है. भेद है तो बस
But
ये
three,
है कि ये न्यूक्लियस यहां आया है इन द टेरेस्ट्रियल वर्ल्ड और जीवात्मन जो है वो यहां नहीं आता, वो मैनिफेस्टेशन के ऊपर रहता है.
very first line that we read last session, these are 3 different forms of the same reality.
I'm saying that, I'm showing that line. The जीवात्मन,
please
spark
go.
soul and psychic being are 3 different forms of the same.
हाँ, correct. So now जब हम फॉर्म बोलते हैं तो उसका मतलब हुआ रूप, आकार, जिसका आकार. तो जब रूप की बात करते तो एक चीज के, it's like gold taking form, coin and something else which he also said earlier.
Yes, yes.
So ये 3 forms है distinctly.
Definitely है.
हाँ, तो ये 3 form है. So जीवात्मा और spark soul are connected in that sense. The 2 forms are connected.
What is your question?
And the spark soul.
आपका क्वेश्चन क्या है, मैं समझ नहीं पा रहा.
नहीं, so when we say they are the same thing, वो थोड़ा
तो ठीक है, आप ठीक है, वो आप अभी राइट नाउ उसके डिफरेंस पे एम्फेसाइज करना चाहते हो, हम अभी डिफरेंस पे एम्फेसाइज करके चलते हैं.
हाँ, क्योंकि क्या है, जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग बैठी है ना वो थोड़ी वो हो रही है मेरी वापस से. ओके,
they are the same and yet different because of this reason that one does not come down, the other comes down.
हाँ, बस, हाँ,
okay. Okay. One may say that these are projections. ये वाला सेंटेंस क्लियर हो गया. Why we paused here? कि से वो डाउट नहीं आना चाहिए कि वो डायरेक्टली प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा है. It does not directly project.
Yeah, that's very important because I also thought ये projection direct है.
This is what we understand. This is what we come to understand when we read this sentence. Okay. Next, the Upanishad speaks also of a supramental and a bliss purusha, And if the supramental and the bliss nature were organized in the evolution on earth, we could become aware of them upholding the movements here. Okay, so the reference is to the Taittiriya Upanishad. योगेश जी का जो क्वेश्चन है कि हाउ डू द supramental and the bliss purusha relate to the psychic being? So the answer would be कि so far the psychic being is supporting and carrying the Annamaya, Pranamaya, and the Manomaya. And the psychic being in its turn is coming from that spark soul, which is containing all the possibilities, including the Vijnana, supramental, and the Ananda. तो और यहाँ पे जो वो कह रहे हैं कि there is that if here ना, where was that? The Upanishads also, and if the supramental and the bliss nature were organized, they are not yet organized in the evolution. Very clearly, they are not yet organized. Okay. उनका कोशा इसलिए बोला जाता है बिकॉज समथिंग ऑफ देम कैन बी फेल्ट हियर, विच इज वाई वे यूज द वर्ड्स विज्ञान कोशा एंड आनंद कोशा. Something of them can be felt here without going into trance, without going completely into losing consciousness of this world. Okay, and they constitute together what is called the karana sharira. ठीक है, उसके ऊपर के जो दो होते हैं चित्त कोशा एंड सत कोशा, वो ऑर्गेनाइज तो क्या, उनको तो अनुभव भी हम यहां बैठ के नहीं कर सकते. दिस इज देयर इन हिम्स टू द मिस्टिक फायर. आई विल पेस्ट दैट सेंटेंस. इफ यू हैव टू एक्सपीरियंस दोस टू प्लेन्स, यू हैव टू गो इनटू ट्रांस. देयर इज नो अदर वे. उनका तो बेसिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भी नहीं हुआ है ह्यूमन प्लेन के अंदर. इज इट क्लियर योगेश जी?
Yeah, it's clear. My only request is this Upanishad आपने जो बताया, you referred it. Yeah, and the earlier one when we started, you were referring to the Katho Upanishad. Mundaka.
मनोमय पुरुषा प्राण शरीर नेता. दिस इज द एग्जैक्ट संस्कृत. ठीक है, इस वाले में मुझे एग्जैक्ट संस्कृत याद नहीं है, बट आई कैन टेल यू देयर आर 3 चैप्टर्स इन दैट. द चैप्टर कॉल्ड ब्रह्म शिक्षावल्ली इज देयर, देन द भृगुवल्ली इज देयर. भृगुवल्ली में है, भृगुवल्ली मीनिंग द कॉन्वर्सेशन बिटवीन भृगु एंड हिज सन वारुणी. In that it is there, the mention of the 5 planes.
Yeah, if you could just share it, I'll put it for the reference.
Yeah. I'll put it.
Done. Thanks.
Okay, welcome. The Upanishad speaks. Somebody saying something? Anjali ji?
No, it's okay. Please add me to that group.
Yes, I will.
Anmol bhai, one more question I have.
Tell me.
And this one where you said supramental and bliss, it's written that it's not organized here. And earlier line, the psychic being is supporting the 3 lower planes, right?
Yeah.
So does it mean logically, just kind of extrapolating, that if the once the things are organized at supramental and bliss, then there's no need for psychic being? Is that
No, it does not mean that.
अच्छा.
और I mean, I don't know actually, because supramental evolution के बारे में शिवबंधु ने कहा है कि when that will organize itself, we leave it to the supermind. How it will organize itself, we don't know. But I mean, it doesn't. And in fact, at another place, agenda में है वो, mother says that it is the psychic being which will become the supramental. कुछ ऐसा उन्होंने बोला है एक जगह पे. So it will not be discussed, because psychic being के बिना individuality कैसे रहेगी? Psychic being जो है, that is what gives individuality ना. So if you think about it, the individuality won't remain. You will be sort of merged with the cosmos and this thing.
Because supramental में you are individual yet you are one. ऐसा दोनों है.
Supramental में you do not lose the sense of your individuality. ठीक है?
Correct.
But at any moment you can know yourself as the universal, as the transcendent. You can be simultaneously also like that. ठीक है? But you do not, और individual lose हो नहीं सकता है. This is what the date मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको. 15.7 of the Gita, page 445 of Essays on the Gita. He says, if words have any meaning, then this is what it means, that the individual is eternal. Individual की eternality भी eternal है. It cannot completely erase that. Possible ही नहीं है वो. Of course, these are things of experience. So until experienced.
नहीं, ये बात तो सही है, पर just trying to understand. बात सही कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि
जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः. The jiva is also sanatana. The individual is eternal. वो पैसेज भी मैं बार-बार कोट कर रहा हूं, तो I'll paste that passage from page 445 of the Essays on the Gita.
when you talk of page 445, it's talking about the essays on the Gita. It's the same essays on the Gita.
Yeah, that we are reading. Sorry?
It's, yeah,
Yeah. Essays on the Gita, yes. Correct, same book. The Upanishad speaks also of a supramental and a bliss Purusha, and if the supramental and the bliss nature were organized in the evolution on earth, we could become aware of them upholding the movements here, right? As for the psychic being, it enters into the evolution. अभी तक वो बात कर रहे थे जीवात्मन की और पुरुष की. Okay? Now he's talking about the psychic being. As for the psychic being, it enters into the evolution, enters into the body at birth, and goes out of it at death. Okay? But the Jivatman as I know it is unborn and eternal, although upholding the manifested personality from above. As I know it is writing for the sake of humility. It's not to be taken that he does not know. या फिर ये उनकी नॉलेज है और क्या पता किसी और की और क्या नॉलेज हो. This is Sri Aurobindo's style of writing. Some people say that it is that British style जिसमें कि he writes in a very gentlemanly fashion and all, but this is basically his style of writing and his utter humility. It does not mean that it can be otherwise. Okay. The psychic being can be described as the Jivatman entering into birth, if you like. But if the distinction is not made, then the nature of the Atman is blurred and a confusion arises. That is, a distinction is not made between the Jivatman and the psychic being.
But then why does the nature of the Atman get blurred in this?
वो आत्मन से मतलब उनका जीवात्मन ही है.
अच्छा.
Jivatman is nothing but I agree. मेरे को भी यही क्वेश्चन आया था when I read the sentence.
Yeah, because
There is
Atman
no
doesn't-
difference practically between the Jivatman and the Atman. वो सेम ही चीज है. Because जीवात्मन वो कहते हैं जीवात्मन lives in the sense of unity. वो उसका natural sense है.
but Atman is always used in another manner, right?
Atman is used in the manner कि Atman is that which is carrying everything within it. Atman is the divine basically.
The divine who is everywhere.
Yes. Who is everywhere? Again, depends on which text is using the word Atman. इसलिए तो आगे जाकर के वो बोल रहे हैं कि जो word Atman है, like the word spirit in English, is used in different fashions. So in the Isha Upanishad, the Atman is said to be that which has become all these beings. ठीक है? Atmaiva bhut vijanatah. ठीक है? Atman is that which is carrying everything within itself. Okay? Atman is that which is inside everybody. In the Isha, it is used like that. In another major Upanishad called the Aitareya, the first verse itself, Atma idam ekam eva agra asit. In the beginning, agra, it was only the Atma which was there. Atma eva, Atmaiva idam eka evagra asit. Okay. Now, in this kind of sense, in other places, you might find the word Tat or you might find the word Brahma. वो depend करता है depending on the writer, depending on the scripture. Okay. So the word Atman is used. Realistically understanding things, all these rishis, they were not living in the same place or they were cross-checking their notes and कहीं पे किसी ने वो उपनिषद लिखा होगा, वहां लिखा होगा. So, according to what they felt was the meaning of the word और जैसे उनको expression आया वैसे उन्होंने लिखा है. The job of correlating is done very incredible way by people like Sri Aurobindo, right? जो एक perfect clarity दे देते हैं.
Anmol,
Yes.
in the previous letter that we read, the
Yes.
first line, he's used Jivatman and Atman intermittently. I'll read that line again. It said the Jivatman or spirit is self-existent, above the manifested or instrumental being. It is superior to birth and death, always the same. It is the individual self or Atman.
Now here,
The-
wait a minute. Individual self or Atman, here the word individual is the adjective of both self and Atman. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि individual self एक phrase है और और Atman दूसरा phrase है, ऐसा नहीं है.
Say that again, please.
In the phrase individual self or Atman, okay, individual is the adjective for self and Atman also. So it's saying individual self or individual Atman. Because very clearly he's saying the eternal true being of the individual. यहां उस आत्मन की बात नहीं हो रही है जो इंडिविजुअलाइज ही नहीं हुआ है. ओके,
इंडिविजुअलाइज आत्मन की बात हो रही है ना. इट
मैं
इज
वही तो कह रहा हूं. इसीलिए द वर्ड इंडिविजुअल सेल्फ और जो लिखा है ना, इट इज, आई एम हाईलाइटिंग इट, इट इज द इंडिविजुअल सेल्फ और आत्मन. ओके, सो हियर इंडिविजुअल सेल्फ. So the adjective individual is applicable both to the word self as well as to the word Atman in this phrase.
So then he's speaking about the spark soul, right?
नहीं, he's not speaking about the spark soul. He's speaking about the Jivatman, the individual Atman.
Right, sorry.
Spark soul बाद में आएगा उसके. Spark soul और वो सेम ही है, बट यहाँ पे वो इंडिविजुअल आत्मन जीवात्मन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं.
अंडरस्टूड.
एज डिस्टिंग्विश्ड, योगेश भाई को जो डाउट हुआ था कि वो आत्मन में ए कैपिटल है, ठीक है. नाउ दैट समटाइम्स आई आल्सो डोंट अंडरस्टैंड कि वो कैपिटल स्मॉल कहीं कहीं पे उतना मैच नहीं करता है. समवेयर इट इज, मोस्ट प्लेसेस इट इज, इट वुड बी डेलिबरेट ऑब्वियसली फ्रॉम हिज साइड, यू नो. वो होता है जैसे गॉड में कैपिटल जी हुआ, गॉड्स अगर है विद अ प्लूरल, नाउ गॉड तो एक ही है, कैपिटल जी का मतलब बड़ी चीज है, तो ऐसा आया तो क्या मतलब है, इट मीन्स द ग्रेट गॉड्स. So that is how he uses the capital letter. यहाँ पे I mean, ये somebody, कल्पना बहन please जो screen को थोड़ा सा don't use this. Anyway, so here the word individual is adjective for self and it is the adjective for Atman.
Correct. Makes sense.
It does
Thanks.
not mean the non-individualized Atman. It doesn't mean that. I don't know how to erase this जो भी आया, doesn't matter. As for the psychic being, it enters into the evolution, enters into the body at birth, and goes out of it at death. But the Jivatman, as I know it, is unborn and eternal, although upholding, ये हमने पढ़ लिया था, this is a necessary distinction for metaphysical knowledge and for something that is very important in spiritual experience. One second. The psychic being can be described as the Jivatman entering into birth, if you like. But if the distinction is not made, then the nature of the Atman is blurred and a confusion arises. This is a necessary distinction for metaphysical knowledge and for something that is very important in spiritual experience. Yeah, because I think it was in the previous letter only that we had read that it is the psychic being which is necessary for the transformation of the nature. ये वाला था. Here it is. I am highlighting this sentence. As the self or Atman is free and superior to birth and death, the experience of the Jivatman and its unity with the supreme or universal self is sufficient to bring the sense of liberation. Okay. But, that is why the but for the transformation of the life and nature, the full awareness and awakening of our psychic being also is indispensable. So from this, I mean, the understanding that comes at least prima facie is, okay, you can have the liberation without being fully aware of your psychic being. This is what I understand from this.
The psychic being can also be one in the Mundaka Upanishad, the two birds. The psychic being and psychic entity कहेंगे क्या?
Psychic entity word अभी तक इसमें नहीं आया है, तो उसको नहीं लाते हैं बीच में.
Let us call it spark soul and psychic being.
See, the two birds in the Mundaka Upanishad, one is the eater of the fruit and the other is that which simply witnesses without eating. तो हाँ, so in my understanding, और क्योंकि उसमें वो बोलते हैं ऊपर बैठा हुआ है, the one seated on the branch above. So that would be the psychic being and the Jivatma.
Okay. Not the spark soul.
नहीं, because spark soul तो नीचे आया हुआ है ना. I think उसमें आता है कि it is seated on the branch above. तो अगर वो above word अगर आ रहा है तो above word का मतलब वो जीवात्मन की बात हो रही है.
Okay.
Anmol, the spark soul, if you see the definition of what we read which we read again today, that is exactly the bird on top. Because if I'll just read it again because it
It's
says
the bird on top, but 1 minute, Yogesh ji, it is not on top ना, वो top में नहीं है, वो ऊपर नहीं है, वो यहाँ आया हुआ है, वो नीचे आया हुआ है. तभी तो हम उसके लिए बोल रहे हैं कि it comes down into the manifestation. The moment you say the word top and you say the word above, तो you mean the Jivatman. You get it now?
Okay.
आपने जैसे ही above word यूज किया ना, इसमें above word आया है. Wait a minute. ये the aspiration felt above, बिंदु felt above, ये जितनी बार भी आया था, it is all referring to the जीवात्मन. यहां भी ये देखिए जो हम पढ़ रहे थे, जीवात्मन as I know it is unborn eternal although upholding the manifested personality from above. तो जो ऊपर वाली एंटिटी बोलते हैं, जो above वाली बोलते हैं, that is the जीवात्मन. जो नीचे आती है into the terrestrial manifestation आती है, that is what is called the spark soul, which मतलब organizes itself through the psychic being, as the psychic being, by becoming the psychic being, etc., etc.
Yeah, but see, the psychic being was the personality, but the existence of that soul within is what keeps you alive, right? Because if you see, the real entity is the psychic entity. If that soul goes away,
Psychic
and
entity
then
word हमने अभी तक इसमें यूज नहीं
consciousness.
किया सेशन में. Many other people may not know it, so let's use the terms used so far.
The second term here, which is the spark soul.
That is the psychic entity. So the spark soul is the psychic entity.
Correct. And it does nothing. It only witnesses. Because it is that reality which is what is seeing and keeping, it's enabling the personality.
That sense, if you want to say it, it is not wrong to say कि वो bird है. But मैं ये केवल इस पे अटक रहा हूं या अटका रहा हूं सबको कि उसमें कहा जाता है कि that bird is above. और above word जो है वो spark soul के लिए यूज नहीं किया जाता. That's all I'm saying.
Yogesh, you have to understand, we always thought that the psychic entity, spark soul, is the other bird, but never realizing that in the Mundaka Upanishad, they are saying very clearly that that bird is above. And that's what Anmol is trying to explain to us, that above to Khali is a Jivatman, but we do not have to distinguish between the two, because Sri Aurobindo himself is saying that there are three manifestations, but they are the same.
Same reality.
Only their space is different. The
Okay.
space, the Jivatman is above.
अगर आप बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट, अगेन वो मुझे कोई वर्स मिल नहीं रहा है.
Anmol, the only reason I agree to your point above, but the fact is that the bird is an individual, it is an individualized extension of the Atman which is above, which is non-form, right? The bird is shown to be like the real entity of a human being, which is within all of us, which is just a drishta, which is only
That's what I'm
sakshi.
saying. When
The
it is within you, it is called the spark soul. When
Right.
it is above you, it is called the Jivatman. It is a matter of terminology.
Okay, that I see your point above, because as you rightly said, that it is not the way the Jivatman is described. It is the one which is above.
Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya. I'm just trying from memory to recollect the verse. Dva Suparna, two beautiful of wing. Okay. Sayuja joined, Sakhaya, friends. Okay. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vrikshe Parishasvajate. They are seated on the same tree. Okay. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vrikshe Parishasvajate Tayoranyah Pippalam Swadu Atti Anaschananyan Abhichakashiti. This is the verse. Okay. Tayoho. Tayoho means of the two. हाँ, ऑफ द टू. षष्ठी का वो मिडिल वाला वो है द्विवचन. ठीक है. तयोरन्यः पिप्पलम स्वादु अत्ति. उनमें से एक जो है अन्यः, वो अन्यः वर्ड यूज हो रहा है इंस्टेड ऑफ द वर्ड एक, बट इट इज टू बी अंडरस्टूड एट वन ऑफ देम. तयोः ऑफ द टू. तयोरन्यः पिप्पलम स्वादु अत्ति. पिप्पलम मीन्स द फ्रूट. स्वादु मतलब चखना. सॉरी, स्वादु मतलब उसका स्वाद. अत्ति मीन्स टू एंजॉय. ओके. तयोरन्यः पिप्पलम स्वादु अत्ति अनश्चनन्यन अभिचाकशीति. अनश्चनन्यन अनन्यन. अनन्यन मतलब इसके अलावा जो दूसरा वाला है. अनह का संधि विच्छेद क्या होगा? अबव वर्ड इसमें नहीं, ऊपरी वर्ड नहीं है. द वर्ड फॉर अबव इन द वर्स इज ऊपरी. ठीक है. सो मे बी जब वर्ड ऊपरी ही नहीं है तो यू कुड से दैट व्हाट यू वर सेइंग. दैट्स व्हाई मैं संस्कृत वर्स को मतलब रिमेंबर करने की कोशिश कर रहा था. जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकंड. शुड आई, बिकॉज इट्स ऑलरेडी 9:03, शुड आई ट्राई टू रीड द जो एक वो मुझे संधि विच्छेद अभी माइंड में नहीं आ रहा है.
You'll put it in the reference so
I
clarity.
put it in the reference in the group. Fine.
Because we have always believed that the two birds में one is the spark soul and one is the psychic being. So
Our whole contention was regarding this कि वो ऊपर वाला word उसमें है या नहीं. तो
अगर
अभी
ऊपर
तक माइंड में नहीं आ रहा कि the word above is there in the verse itself.
तो अगर है
अनक्षचनन्यन अभिचाकशीति. अभिचाकशीति means वो witness करता है. वो स्वादु अत्ति नहीं करता, वो केवल अभिचाकशीति करता है. It just observes.
then it could be the spark soul, right? The
It
other.
can be, yes. Why not?
Yeah. Okay.
हाँ. बट आई थिंक मुझको जो इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशंस में लिखते हैं ना, ऐसे ऑन द गीता में भी है, तो समहाउ आई एम लाइक कि कहीं उसमें वो अबव है. डजंट मैटर, वो हम देख लेंगे जब विल जस्ट फिनिश द सेशन फॉर टुडे. ओके, सो हमने कहाँ तक पढ़ा है? हाँ, द वर्ड आत्मन लाइक स्पिरिट इन इंग्लिश इज पॉपुलरली यूज्ड इन ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ सेंसेस. स्पिरिट भूत को भी बोलते हैं, ठीक है. आत्मन की जहां तक बात है, आई मीन shouldn't say such things, but even जैसे चलो नहीं बोलता, it's not a nice thing to say. It's used in all kinds of senses, let's just put it that way. ठीक है. आत्मा भी तो बोलते हैं खुद को. The word Atman, like spirit in English, is popularly used in all kinds of senses, but both for spiritual and philosophical knowledge. वो जो भूत आता है, that is just simply a preta. It's simply a vital being. It's not.
So it is pretatma. We say na pretatma. The word is pretatma.
ita, जो यहाँ से चला गया है, जो यहाँ से प्रोग्रेस कर गया है. प्रेता का
Correct, the vital being.
ये है. प्र इत, जो यहाँ से जाता रहा है, जो जहाँ से प्रोग्रेस कर गया है, यहाँ से फ्लो हो गया, उसको प्रेता बोलते हैं. बट दैट इज नॉट द जीवात्मा, ऑब्वियसली. वो तो जीवात्मा की कुछ सेकंड या थर्ड कवरिंग है जो उसने ओढ़ी हुई है, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sense. So
no, but भूत तो very colloquial word है, पर प्रेतात्मा बोलते हैं ना
आत्मा
नॉर्मली.
भी बोलते हैं. मुझे उनकी आत्मा दिखाई दी थी.
अच्छा.
मूवीज नहीं आती, आत्मा के नाम से एक मूवी आई थी, तो वो उसमें कोई वो जीवात्मन की बात थोड़ी ना कर रहे. Anyway, he's just giving the rationale. The word Atman, like spirit in English, is popularly used in all kinds of senses, but both for spiritual and philosophical knowledge. Spiritual is that which is seeing, philosophical is the manishi thing जो उसको mentalize कर रहा है, उस तक जाने की कोशिश कर रहा है through metaphysical vision or speculation or whatever, right? So, but both for spiritual and philosophical knowledge, it is necessary to be clear and precise in one's use of terms so as to avoid confusion of thought and vision. By confusion in the words we used to express them. Clear? If I had meant that it is an individual consciousness that determines all this working, okay, as you tell me, then अब इसमें question नहीं है ना, तो वो as you tell me पता नहीं चल रहा क्या है. Then I should be in contradiction with my own teaching of the divine as the master of all and the need of surrender. यहाँ पे जो learning point हमारे लिए वो यही है. It is the divine who is the master of all and there is the need of surrender. We ourselves cannot become our own masters unless that surrender to the divine happens in us. Right? So, if I had meant that it is an individual consciousness that determines all this working as you tell me, then I should be in contradiction with my own teaching of the divine as the master of all and the need of surrender. For an individual who can do everything himself can carry out his own salvation. This is not possible. Yoga and its objects करके उनकी एक writing है. Without the permission of the divine, no soul can leave the game or some such thing is there. Very clearly. Even जो मुक्ति या salvation होता है supposedly by ज्ञान मार्गा, उसके पीछे भी divine का sanction रहता है. Even the hardcore ज्ञान योगी who does not want to believe that there is such a divine at all, वो केवल निर्गुण निराकार ब्रह्म को ही मानता है. उसके पीछे भी कहीं ना कहीं वो डिवाइन का सैंक्शन है कि थ्रू हिज तपस्या ही हैज अर्न्ड दिस एंड लेट हिम गो आउट ऑफ द प्ले बिकॉज दिस इज व्हाट दिस सोल्स डेस्टिनी सीम्स टू बी. ओके, एंड द लास्ट most important point of view, from the point of view of sadhana, for an individual blah blah blah, he has no need of surrender. So the divine is the master of all and there is the need of surrender. और जो नॉन सरेंडर वाला पाथ है, जो नॉन डिवाइन वाला पाथ है ज्ञान योगा, वेरी क्लियरली इट कम्स इन द beginning of the 12th chapter of the Gita, kleshodhikatarastesham avyaktasakta chetasam. In that the klesha is more, klesha adhikataraha. And when you surrender to the divine, when you accept him, and you may not have the experience, so you have to believe. यहीं पे वो श्रद्धा वाली चीज आती है. That's why the Gita says श्रद्धावान लभते ज्ञानम. Right? जैसे there is this gentleman प्रेमानंद बाबा on YouTube, वो बहुत अच्छा एक एग्जांपल देते हैं. श्योबंदर ने वो एग्जांपल दिया कि एल्जेब्रा है, ठीक है. अलजेब्रा के अंदर आपको सम को सॉल्व करना है या अरिथमेटिक है, आप क्या करते हैं, आप एक वो मानी संख्या बोलते हैं द प्रेमानंद महाराज, ठीक है, एक्स या ए या बी कुछ लेकर के चलते हैं ना, वी स्टार्ट विद दैट, वी बिलीव इट, एंड दैट्स हाउ वी सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. सो इन दैट पाथ विच इज बिलीविंग दैट, आप मान के चलो कि वो है, एंड यू डू व्हाट द शास्त्र इज सेइंग, व्हाट द गुरु इज सेइंग, यू विल रियलाइज द डिवाइन, राइट. बट उसके लिए उसकी वो मान्यता होना कि इट इज देयर, and surrendering to it. That, of course, for those who have had a glimpse, there is no need for this kind of, pravachan. कि मानो कि भगवान है, वो जानते हैं, they felt the touch, right? That's all. Anything? 9 वैसे तो, but हाँ, धवल जी, tell me.
In this second paragraph of what we read today,
Yes.
it talks about the three Purushas. Can you help me relate it with the Mandukya Upanishad's three states, where, and then the fourth state, which it says Turiya? Is it that state which we enter into for a very short time, that the Upanishad says?
Okay. No.
Because it kind of corresponds, because when
मुझे जितना
consciousness,
पता है बता देता हूँ. Yeah, hold on, I understood your question, I think. हाँ, बोलिए, if there is something more, बोलिए.
no, just when the consciousness starts withdrawing from the waking state into this, we enter into vital world, then we enter into the mental world, and then eventually, so how is it related, or what exactly in that sense will relate to Turiya here?
तुरीय क्या होगा, आप ये कह रहे हैं?
Fourth state is the Turiya. They say you cannot experience it. Mandukya declares, no, somewhere.
See, my understanding would be, based on जितना मैंने पढ़ा है, the विराट और वैश्वानर और the जागृत अवस्था, ठीक है, that would correspond to the sthula sharira, which would be composed of the annamaya and the pranamaya.
Okay.
The second one, that is the dreamer,
Waking, dreaming state, barabar.
Also called Hiranyagarbha or Taijasa, the luminous. That would correspond to, इसमें भी जो पिछला वाला बोला था उसमें एक एडिशन कर लीजिए, what is also called Paribhu in the Isha Upanishad, verse number 8.
Paribhu, okay, 1 minute. Verse number 8. अच्छा.
मतलब विराट, वैश्वानर, जागृत अवस्था, ठीक है, अन्नमय एंड प्राणमय का कॉम्बिनेशन, which is together called Sthula Sharira, and the word Paribhu in the Isha Upanishad, verse number 8.
Okay.
Second, जो आपने बोला, स्वप्नावस्था कहते हैं, स्वप्न, ड्रीमर इंग्लिश में, तेजस, ठीक है, दिस वुड बी द मनोमय पुरुष, द मनीषी ऑफ द ईशा 8.
अच्छा, मनीषी
मनीषी माने जो
मन का ईश्वर है,
माइंड में डील कर रहा है.
जो माइंड,
मनीषी मीन्स द थिंकर.
मनीषा मीन्स लॉर्ड ऑफ द माइंड, नो?
नहीं, वहां पे ईशा में जो श है वो श्लोका वाला श नहीं है, षटकोण वाला श है.
ओह, या सॉरी.
ओके, या बात नहीं है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट यू, इवन आई डोंट नो कि वो षटकोण वाले श के साथ वैसी कोई धातु है या नहीं, ठीक है. श्लोका वाले श के साथ दैट इज द धातु, और उसका लॉर्ड वाला मीनिंग होता है, दैट मुझे भी उतना ही पता है. हो सकता है वो धातु हो एंड इट्स साउंड इतनी सिमिलर है तो इट मे हैव द सेम मीनिंग, ठीक है. बट हम अब इसमें एटिमोलॉजी में नहीं जा रहे हैं, बाद में जा सकते हैं. मनीषी सिंपली मीन्स द थिंकर, and it would correspond to the manomaya purusha, correspond to the taijasa or hiranyagarbha, or what is called the सूक्ष्म शरीर. ये जो कोरिलेशन है कि जो स्थूल शरीर है ये अन्न कोश और प्राण कोश होता है, जो सूक्ष्म शरीर है वो मनोमय कोश होता है, और जो कारण शरीर है वो विज्ञान कोश और आनंद कोश होता है. दिस इज डन रिपीटेडली ऑफ योगा बाय श्री अरविंदो.
अच्छा, सो ओल्ड
इंट्रोडक्शन वाले सेक्शन में ही है,
इसमें ही है, आगे
बाद में भी है, बट इंट्रोडक्शन में तो है ही है क्लियरली.
अच्छा,
ठीक है. थर्ड जो आया,
स्वप्न अवस्था, फिर सुषुप्ति. नहीं, स्वप्न अवस्था ही
स्वप्न के बाद सुषुप्ति. ओके, deep sleep.
deep sleep.
Not just supti, which is sleep, but sushupti, deep
हाँ
sleep. Okay?
हाँ
उसको उसमें बोलते हैं प्राज्ञ, और
हाँ
there's one more Sanskrit word for it, ईश्वर. केवल संस्कृत वर्ड्स बता रहा हूं अभी, मांडुक्य उपनिषद वाले.
हाँ
लेटर्स ऑन योगा में भी है, इसी वॉल्यूम में है.
अच्छा
And that is composed of in my mind, that is composed of the Vijnana, that is the Karana Sharira, that is composed of the Vijnana Kosha and the Ananda Kosha.
अच्छा
और उसके जो बियॉन्ड है, जो हमने कहा था कि सत और चित
हाँ
को,
हाँ हाँ विच इज
वो
नॉट
तुरीय होगा.
वो तुरीय होगा. ओके ओके गॉट इट ओके. Yeah, that helps at least to map.
1 minute. ये सिंथेसिस ऑफ योगा पेज नंबर 520. ये मुझको थोड़ा स्टडी करना पड़ेगा, बट यहाँ पे मैंने अपने मार्जिन में लिखा हुआ है,
हाँ
फिजिकल इज जागृत, वाइटल मेंटल इज स्वप्न, सुप्रा मेंटल इज सुषुप्ति, एंड सच्चिदानंद और ट्रांसेंडेंट इज तुरीय.
so pranamaya will come pranamaya plus manomaya is swapnastha.
दैट्स व्हाट इज रिटन हियर. मैंने आई एम सॉरी, मार्जिन में पेंसिल में लिखा हुआ है, बट आई हैव टू रीड दिस. ऑफ कोर्स मैंने
अच्छा
यहीं से अंडरस्टैंडिंग के बेसिस पे लिखा होगा.
हाँ
बट
हाँ
या
हाँ
या
Can I add for Kavi Manishi Paribu?
yes please.
Kirit uncle had said that these four stages, Kavi, Manishi, Paribhu, Swayambhu, are the stages when the divine decided to manifest and become the world,
Correct.
become the Srishti. So what he did as Kavi, he was a visionary. Kavi, he was envisioning the whole process. As Manishi, because it comes from the mind, he threw all the possibilities in front of him like dice, and then he chose which of the possibilities he would actually use. That was his work as Manishi. And then Paribhu then he became all this, and Swayambhu is then he lorded over these. So Kavi, Manishi, Paribhu, Swayambhu.
So Dhaval bhai, I am showing this on the screen. Are you able to see it? If we examine the physiology,
Anmol,
yeah, if we examine the
it will take
phraseology,
like 2-3 minutes more.
please go
Zyada
ahead.
time nahi lagega. So if
okay.
we examine the phraseology of the old books, we shall find that the waking state is the consciousness of the material universe, which we normally possess in this embodied existence, dominated by the physical mind. Okay. Next, the dream state is a consciousness corresponding to the subtler life plane and mind plane behind.
हाँ so
मेरी ये
clearly
गलती इसलिए हुई बिकॉज मैं स्थूला सूक्ष्म कारणा वाला मैपिंग लेके चल रहा था वहां पे. और स्थूला क्लियरली वो कहते हैं स्थूला शरीरा इज कंपोज्ड ऑफ द अन्न कोशा एंड द प्राण कोशा.
oh really
यस. एक से ज्यादा बार है, वो मैं बाद में पेस्ट कर दूंगा, उसमें मुझे कोई डाउट नहीं है. मुझे पेज नंबर नहीं याद आ रहा, इसका मुझे समहाउ पेज नंबर आसपास का आइडिया था. दैट्स व्हाई आई वाज एबल टू पुल आउट.
तब इससे स्थूल से इसको ज्वाइन ही नहीं करना है. The
अभी नहीं
waking.
करना है, जो वही तो कहना, वो ज्वाइन नहीं करना है. लेट्स रीड व्हाट श्री अरबिंदो इज सेइंग हियर. ठीक है.
correct क्योंकि ओल्ड में जाएंगे तो ये क्योंकि many old books like other people when they write about the three shariras.
Some people might be needing to leave the session soon, so let's just read this. एक बार प्लीज लॉजिकल एंडिंग हो जाएगा सेशन का. ओके. The dream state is a consciousness corresponding to the subtler life plane and mind plane behind. ठीक है. Which to us, even when we get intimations of them, have not the same concrete reality as the things of the physical existence. वो हमारे लिए ड्रीमी जैसे लगते हैं.
बराबर.
Okay. The sleep state, I mean, in our dreams, we go to the vital worlds and mental worlds.
Exactly. That is what led me to say this. Because mother has said in your dreams,
for that matter, we also, mother used to go into the subtle physical plane every night in her sleep for 2 to 3 hours. तो उस दृष्टि से देखा जाए तो subtle physical भी ड्रीम में है. उस दृष्टि से देखा जाए तो, you understand? So whatever is जो जागृत है एकदम जो सामने है दिख रहा है, वो जागृत है, वो फिजिकल है, वो मटेरियल है. Now moving further, the sleep state is a consciousness corresponding to the supramental plane proper to the gnosis. इसीलिए उसको प्राज्ञा बोलते हैं.
प्राज्ञा अवस्था. हाँ.
उसको प्राज्ञ बोलते हैं, ठीक है,
हाँ
which is beyond our experience because our causal body or envelope of gnosis is not developed in us.
अच्छा
Hmm? Its faculty is not active and therefore we are in relation to that plane in a condition of dreamless sleep.
ओह इसीलिए सुषुप्ति को डीप स्लीप और ड्रीमलेस कहा गया है
Exactly.
आह
Okay. Because वो हमारे लिए accessible नहीं है, वो यहाँ organize नहीं हुआ है. I am rereading this sentence. The sleep state is a consciousness corresponding to the supramental plane proper to the gnosis, which is beyond our experience because our causal body or or envelope of gnosis is not developed in us. Sorry, its faculty is not active, and therefore we are in relation to that plane in a condition of dreamless sleep. The turiya, beyond, is the consciousness of our pure self existence or our absolute being.
So here he is talking of Jivatman.
No, he is not using the word here.
But
Our
it
pure
means
self
that.
existence he means Satchidananda.
अच्छा
सत जिसके अंदर चित और आनंद implied है. The moment the word existence comes, you have to bring in your mind the word Sat.
okay. This is life divine, no? हाँ
This is Synthesis of Yoga, page number 520. 520.
अच्छा अच्छा
The Turiya beyond is the consciousness of our pure self existence or our absolute being with which we have no direct relations at all. Whatever mental reflections we may receive in our dream or our waking or even irrecoverably in our sleep consciousness. This fourfold scale corresponds to the degree of the ladder of being by which we climb back towards the absolute divine. Normally, therefore, we cannot get back from the physical mind to the higher planes or degrees of consciousness without receding from the waking state, without going in and away from it, and losing touch with the material world. Hence, to those who desire to have the experience of these higher degrees, trance becomes a desirable thing, a means of escape from the limitations of the physical mind and nature. It is on the chapter on trance. Samadhi, इस chapter का नाम है समाधि.
अच्छा अच्छा My goodness, such a depth.
Your window.
Your window. What else do you expect?
नहीं नहीं मतलब ये तो ये पूरा प्रोसेस एक्सप्लेन करते मांडुक्य में हमको ये समझ में नहीं आता. We just know the states, that's all.
Right, right. So in what I said, उसमें correction यही था. I'm sorry for the mistake. कि the Jagrat was including the Anna Kosha. The Swapna was including the. अगर हम को यहाँ पे श्री अरविंदो ने कोशा वर्ड नहीं यूज किया है वैसे, ठीक है?
हाँ
He has not used that word. But since you used that word, वहीं से वो आया था. So that was the only correction. बाकी सब तो उसमें वो सब terms उपनिषद के ही हैं. There is no need for correction there.
thanks a lot. Yeah.
Anmol can't thank you enough. Yeah.
What is there?
Yeah, this
तो
is
somehow
so.
पता नहीं by Lord's grace मुझे वो पेज खुल गया. बुक मेरे पास में रखी थी. I knew it is somewhere towards the end. I started flipping the pages in the reverse order और वो मिल गया because I had made a note in my index. Otherwise वो नहीं मिलता है and the question may have been postponed to the next session.
Like, anyway, I won't say much.
नहीं, there is no need to say.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Shall we
you so
just be silent for 1 minute?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Most welcome, Kalpana Ben. Okay, just 1 minute silence.
Thank you, Anmol.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you Anmol bhai.
So class is on Mondays and Fridays.
Mondays and Fridays. This week we did some exceptions because ये एक topic था, so we had I think one class on Tuesday and then Wednesday. But normally it is on Monday and Friday.
Okay. Thank
Now
you.
एक चीज है before I close here. हमने ये 2 letters इसमें पढ़े हैं, but I genuinely feel कि the other letters of Sri Aurobindo on the subject of Jivatman and psychic being, because we are on this right now, even if it takes 2-3 sessions, I think it is better to read those snippets. जो उससे और clarity आएगी, अगर कोई doubt रह गया है तो वो clear हो जाए. This is my submission.
But
I
please,
totally agree. And also Anmol भाई, one request,
Fine.
आपने एक लिंक भेजी थी सेल्फ के ऊपर बहुत पहले, उसमें तो वो भी हमें लेना चाहिए क्योंकि उसमें प्योर सेल्फ के बारे में ही है.
Exactly. I wanted to include that. We will include that also.
हाँ, तो वो क्या है,
self
ऊपर से
समझेंगे
पूरा
तो
आ
फिर
रहे हैं ना.
individual self कैसे समझ में आएगा?
हाँ, इसके लिए वो पूरा सेल्फ से शुरू होगा तो बाद में ये जीवात्मन हायरार्की में, in
So-
that sense of hierarchy, yeah, sorry.
So
not
next time what we will do is the beginning of this section, मतलब ये वाला जो हमने आज पढ़ा था जीवात्मन, इसका from the beginning where he tells about the जीवात्मन, we will start from that. I'll paste the link to that section after the call, so we can pre-read that and then we'll go through it on Monday.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you.
Post-
Thank you.
add me to the group. Add me to the group before you post
I've
it.
added Anjali ji. I've already added.
How you do all this at one time?
नहीं, नहीं.
Ashtavadhani.
Our generation is multi this thing by nature.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Good night.